Hi, I'm actor Ian Champion, and welcome to History of Horror Cinema, my podcast series devoted to the good, bad, and the ugly of horror movie history. Please don't forget to like what you hear and hit subscribe. I have such sights to show you. Maniac, 1934. Released by the suspiciously cheapjack-sounding Hollywood producers and distributors comes this hysterically haphazard shocker, complete with performances ranging from the finest wood grain to the outlandishly overripe. Maniac was directed by Dwayne Esper, who'd already established his credentials at helming exploitation movies with Narcotic in 1933, and would go on to such notables as Marijuana in 1936. His style ostensibly poses as educational warning, whilst simultaneously mining every tawdry detail he can get from his sensationalist subject. In this film, there are so many intertitle cards alluding to the medical conditions depicted, I counted 6 over the course of its 50 minutes, that they almost function as chapter headings, clumsily interpolated without caring about structure. At times, one wonders if this is a bad illustrated psychiatric textbook instead of a horror film. The origin of Maniac is loosely inspired by Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat, the tale of a man haunted by the moggy he hangs after torturing it. A similarly marked cat appears and plagues his waking life till, thwarted in his attempt to kill the new one, he kills his wife in an uncontrollable rage. He bricks up her body behind a wall, but when police hear meowing, it tips them off to break down the wall, revealing her hidden body and that of the cat. Esper's film, written by his wife Hildegard Stady, takes this premise and adds a mad scientist's experimentation into the motivation. We begin with an introductory foreword warning the public against giving in to fear and a wonderfully vague stab at credibility quoting the Chicago Crime Commission study of 40,000 criminals that, I quote, found them all suffering from some mental disease. This leads us to meet Dr. Meyerschultz, Horace B. Carpenter, a bushy-haired medical madman in glasses who could be a lost member of the Grateful Dead. After ranting about needing a human guinea pig for his experiments while brandishing an intimidatingly large hypodermic needle, he bullies his lowly assistant Don Maxwell, who came to him from a failed career as a vaudeville impressionist. Once a ham, always a ham, he says. He can talk. He seems to roar every line in an unspecified Eastern European accent, like a scholarly version of Laurel and Hardy character player Billy Gilbert. Meyerschultz steals a beautiful female corpse from the morgue and injects her with his serum, a disappearance reported by an attendant to the humdrum captain of the Bureau of Missing Persons. The doctor is not satisfied with this subject and shouts subtly to Maxwell, "What I want is a victim with a shattered heart." Instead of waiting till his own performance puts him on the slab, he invites Maxwell to shoot him dead and then transplant his quivering experimental heart kept in a jar. Maxwell fulfills the first part and then decides, rather than to honor the bargain, he will allow his boss's soul to rest so that he can use his acting skills to impersonate Meyerschultz, rendered easier by his employer's disguise-like visage. Another intertitle card, outlining paralysis, leads us to Maxwell offering to help a Mrs. Buckley, Phyllis Diller, namesake of the comedienne, and treat her husband, a palpitating patient of the dead doctor who believes himself to be the orangutan from Murders in the Rue Morgue. Using a dissolve photography effect that will occur a lot in the film, Maxwell has the Buckleys wait while he assumes his mentor's appearance, plus some of his seething insanity. Meyerschultz would be missed. Maxwell never would. In his haste, Maxwell Meyerschultz mistakenly lays hands on the huge hypodermic, full of super adrenaline, which inevitably causes Mr. Buckley to go into lunacy overdrive, stealing through my body, creeping through my veins, and run off outside to abduct women and tear their clothes off. For connoisseurs of rare early 1930s American cinema toplessness, you'd be disappointed, as the subterranean budget for Maniac only allows exteriors to be shot in murky natural light. Meanwhile, Mrs. Buckley cunningly plots to do business with Meyerschultz, believing her husband may be turned into her willing slave, presumably if he can stop jumping on young women long enough. After a brief interruption by an intertitle depicting the paranoiac condition, we see Mayor Schultz bricking up the dead doctor down in the basement. By now, the lame duck bureau captain is on the scene. There's an amusing exchange between him and a neighbor that's worthy of Ed Wood's dialogue concerning the scientist. She, "Why, they even brought a dead dog back to life once." He, "Well, that sounds very remarkable to me." Captain Compelling then uses his disarming interview non-technique on the other oddball local who keeps cats in order to sell their fur. An enterprising chap who harnesses an unsavory symbiotic relationship between felines and rodents. His explanation is a ghoulish tribute to Dr. Seuss and Ed Gein. The cats eat the rats eat the cats, and I get the skins. While Maxwell is spinning plates as his mentor, it seems he has forgotten all about his sassy platinum blonde wife, one of 4 gossiping floozies in a hotel room, who is also scheming to get one over on her hubby. Part Mae West and part talent gone west, she unwittingly lets Maxwell in on her plan by thinking it is Mayor Schultz she tells that there is a fortune due to Maxwell if she can find him. For some reason, this is randomly broken up with another unrelated word from our tutor sponsor about manic-depressive psychoses. Fearing the cunning of both ladies, Maxwell tries to be clever in playing off his wife and Mrs. Buckley against each other. Aptly, they fight like wild cats, the screen overlaid by grasping, talon-like female hands superimposed. Repeated thematic footage like this was taken from Hackson, Witchcraft Through the Ages, which I've covered earlier. Maxwell weighs in by slugging Mrs. Buckley with a strangely handy baseball bat, and then the cops arrive, headed by our fedoraed friend from the Bureau. Referencing the Poe story, they are alerted to a feline cry from behind the wall, and the real Mayor Schultz's body topples out along with a scaredy cat. One more intertitle about insanity takes us to an epilogue where the jailed Maxwell defends his supreme impersonation to the audience. "I only wanted to amuse, to entertain." Of this, Maniac is assuredly and at times unintentionally guilty. Thanks for listening, and if you like what you've just heard, don't forget to click so, and please hit subscribe. If you build it, they will come.